Hey everybody, I'm Joe DeGanzik. It's time for another Smart Home Q&A video right here on Smarter Home Life. And I'll start by basically just reading right from my notes. They're back! So, of course, I have taken a break that kind of ended this month to kind of a long hiatus from the show due to some work-related things and whatnot. And now, in May, I've been able to bring the show back. I don't want to say completely full-time, but we'll say full-time-ish. So if you head over to smarterhomehelp.com, there's a form there, fill it out, it's super simple. I don't like sell your data, so with the whole GDPR privacy policy, I'm not updating my privacy policy. I don't sell your data. So anyways, I collect your data to create things like this this show. So anyways, fill it out. You can even check the little box to set up a dedicated smart home consulting session in real time with me. Those are a lot of fun. I've done a ton of them with you, the viewers, over the years. That's all you really need to know. I get back to you pretty quickly, within a few days usually, and then the most interesting, the best ones go on these Q&As, which are at the end of the month. Let's get on with it. I've got 3 questions for this show. We'll do 2 questions, take a break, and we'll do the last one. I really like the last one, so definitely stay tuned. I think you'll like it too. So the first question from Denny, I'm going to kind of condense this a little bit. He was moving in, he was looking for smart home products. He was moving into a new apartment. He said he lived in, and I don't know if his new place was going to be larger. I think it's the place he's moving into is going to be 400 square feet, which is just slightly larger than this place right here. So small apartment, 400 square feet, moving in, want to make it smart, wanted to get the following based on some of his research: some Philips Hue bulbs and some light strips, an August smart lock, Amazon Echo or Roomba, and looking for one of those smart plugs that I've been talking about incessantly on those quick tip videos. He wasn't sure what to go with, but what I wanted to kind of boil this down to, and I got back to him on some various suggestions, but what I wanted to boil this down to was he started to chat about how expensive some of these products are, especially like Philips Hue light strips. And he had mentioned, even before I actually, I think, talked about it or brought up the idea, that he was going to be shopping on eBay for some of the things anyways, and mainly because there was a special going on, a free Google Mini if you spent a certain amount of money on eBay, which is a good deal, of course. But eBay and Craigslist and other places that you can go get, secondhand smart home and or anything else. If you're okay with secondhand or used or manufacturer refurbished products, then please go grab some and add them to your collection. I have, I don't know what percentage it is here, if I'm kind of looking around. I couldn't give you the exact number, but I do have a number of smart home devices and even some of the camera gear that I have here that I use for all the productions for the Smarter Home Life and for other stuff is secondhand. It's used because it is expensive. Anyways, eBay, secondhand, it's a great idea. He specifically mentioned light strips, and he's talked about the Philips Hue, which of course I have and I've demoed and so forth before. This one's from LifeX, and I mentioned it to him as well. This is a cut piece. You're not really supposed to cut them, but I guess you can email me for inside information, but in general, they say don't cut them. The LifeX strips have, every 6 LEDs is a zone, so you can do actually more than one color on these strips at a time. You can do all kinds of effects and things, but otherwise, most of the light strips look pretty similar today, but the strips for Philips Hue, for LifeX, and even Sylvania's Lightify, or I guess now it's called, what is it, Smart Plus, I think, all of them tend to start around $80 or $90. With Sylvania's version and the Philips version, you have to also have a bridge because or some type of smart hub because they're Zigbee based. The solution from LifeX, this is called the LifeX Z light strip. Their solution is Wi-Fi, so you don't need a hub, but still $90 is a lot of money for 6 feet of light strip, but they're really fun. The alternative for light strips specifically is kind of the DIY route, and you can do it, but I caution you that if you're not really great at electronics and dealing with circuits and so forth, then it may not be for you. But if you want to get into it, if you want to create your own, you can do that and then have that wonderful feeling of accomplishment after. So anyways, light strips generally that you can find on Amazon and other places are generally going to be what's called RGBW, red, green, blue, plus white. There's 4 different circuits that basically power those strips of LEDs, or those individual LEDs that are all arranged on the strip. And then you need controllers to vary the voltage or the power into those LEDs. And so by the time you do that, you hook it to your smart home system, you make all the magic sauce to make all that really work and all the color changing and so forth. A, you may have spent a lot of time, and B, you may have spent almost close to $80 or $90 by the time you're finished with it, depending on what your skill level is. So Denny, thank you for writing in. I hope my suggestions were helpful to you, and let's move on to the next one. So the second email comes in from Eric, and Eric writes in, by the way, I love your videos. Thank you. I do enjoy making them. He says, thanks for the info. Of course. Thank you for writing in. Question. I noticed that sometimes you like to use the manufacturer's apps for automation of HomeKit. Now, of course, everyone who doesn't care about HomeKit, just tune out for the next few minutes. But please stay tuned for the next question because it's really good. So HomeKit, like the iDevices app or the Elgato Eve app. Which of the different manufacturer apps do you like more and why? Which app other than the standard Apple Home app do you find to be your go-to app? Well, that's a tough one. I will freely admit that I'm actually not an active user of HomeKit. What? Oh my God, don't say that. Apple's listening somewhere. I'm not, because it doesn't suit all of my needs, but I'm completely familiar with it. I can talk about it and discuss it and train you how to do things and so forth. So what he's asking is, there are these different apps that use HomeKit. Some of them are less capable, some of them are more capable. And before iOS 10, which was 2016, we had a home app that is actually the predecessor to what Apple introduced as their home app. So there's still a third-party app that's pretty much the best of the best. It costs, I think it's about 15 or 20 bucks. Well worth it if you really want an amazing HomeKit home and set up all of your automations and all your devices. I'll show it to you here in a second. But anyways, Apple had designed HomeKit to bring all these different devices in ultimately into kind of one interface, make it super simple. And ultimately, they debuted their own app so that people didn't have to go around to the different manufacturer apps to control different devices. Some are better than others, and he mentioned iDevices, Elgato Eve. I'm not going to show Elgato's app. I've shown it off before. It's a little more complicated. It's great, but it's kind of not as easy to use as some of the other ones. The iDevices app, which is made by the company that makes a switch that I just have plugged in over there, and I'm going to talk about why this is relevant here in a second. They make great products that they're kind of voice only. They don't work with like SmartThings and traditional smart home hubs, but they're good, solid products. A little on the pricey side, some of them. Their app is pretty darn good, and I've shown this off 1 or 2 episodes ago on the Friday Quick Tips, but it's pretty simple to, the iconography is beautiful, the information is great. But let me show you why that I'll use, and that you may also use one of these manufacturer apps for specific HomeKit devices. So if I go into the iDevices switch, which I've talked about and reviewed this product before, I'll just tap on it and I'll see that it's powered on. If I power it off, you'll see that yes, it's controlling the main studio light. So I'll power this back on. Hopefully it didn't do something to the camera either. And let's see, okay, we're using 17.8 watts of power. It's a fairly intense LED array studio light. And it'll try to calculate your dollar amount of how much that costs you. But let's jump over to the same information, the same device in the Apple Home app. So here we are in the Apple Home app, in the main space, as I call it, which again, I don't set these up that often, so forgive me if some of these devices are like no response or whatever. I'm going to just long press on the actual switch, which says it's on, and it says powered on. Okay, that's great. I'm going to go into the details at the bottom here, and it's in the main space, it's a switch, it's in the favorites, status is not it's designed to show me the status. Let's see, group with other accessories, manufacturer. Where's the power draw? It's not part of HomeKit. Certain attributes are not part of the HomeKit spec, at least not yet. I'm assuming that this summer, and WWDC, Apple's big developers conference, starts on Monday the 4th of June, which is literally a few days from now, because this should be coming out Thursday, May 31st. So anyways, certain attributes of these more advanced devices, like a switch device that happens to have power monitoring or energy monitoring, whatever you would like to call it, it's just not part of the spec. And it's not an issue in terms of just Apple's Home app. If we jump over here to the iDevices switch, and we look at the characteristics, it's power state, on, off. That's it. This is the app, by the way, the other Home app that's been out for years. HomeKit's only been around since 2014. But anyways, this is the other app. You get a much more detailed view of all your different devices, and again, some of them are kind of offline. But anyways, this is an excellent app, an excellent alternative to Apple's own Home app, which is a little bit, it needs some work. Well, I'll just leave it at that. So that's my general rule of thumb. When you need to see additional attributes that you can't see within HomeKit because HomeKit doesn't support that attribute, you've got to go to the manufacturer app. Another example is lighting, and this kind of varies because we've seen certain manufacturers of specialty lighting, like a Nanoleaf with those triangular panels that interlock, and many people have asked me, when are you going to review them? And I'm like, they just don't fit in my current space as I would want them to fit. You're able to actually trigger scenes with, you have to do the design and the animation of those panels within their app, but you can actually trigger their, you can set them up as a scene, you can set the animation up as sort of a scene, and you can trigger that through Siri and HomeKit, but not every type of advanced lighting device. So the what I just demoed, and not really demoed, but talked about a little bit before, see if I have the logo right, there it is. Not that you can really see it at this distance. Every 6 LEDs on the LifeX Z is a customizable zone, basically. So there's multiple zones, multiple colors, multiple effects are possible. I've talked about it, I've demoed and reviewed this product before, so I won't go into it in that much detail, but what you see behind me that's showing kind of a nice, what would look like maybe daylight or blue, it's not, it's like 10 o'clock at night right now. But anyways, I can change this and I can go into this particular light strip that's behind me, stretched across the entire width of the room above the curtain panels, and I can go into basically just the kind of effects and themes tab here, and I can do something that's green. How did that look? You can do a lot of different things. You'll see it show up on the actual strip bar at the top of the app, and it's actually painting that. You can go in and create your own effects, and it's really fun. But you can't assign these to HomeKit. Why? You'd have to ask LifeX. But anyways, I'm going to move us back to where we were and go back to blue. And there we are. Should have done it. It did. So that's it kind of for this little app demo. It really depends on the app itself and how capable it is of what it's got in terms of attributes, special features. My guess is that Apple's going to integrate some more of these less, I would say they're more common now. They were less common, a couple of years ago. Things like power and maybe battery status you get. It's an attribute for battery powered devices, but I think especially with these lighting devices that are doing all these kind of new effects and things, people really want this to be a standard feature that they can access through HomeKit. So that's the answer. The go-to app is what you make of it. To Eric, again, thanks for your kind words on the videos. Thanks for writing in, and let's move on to the next segment. So it is great to be back making these videos, especially being able to do these a little more conversational, a little bit longer videos, although I'm going to try to keep these to around 30 minutes as well. These could actually be also turned into audio podcasts, although it is better to kind of watch them because you do get more of the interaction of showing apps and devices and so forth. Other new stuff. I hope you like the new format. One thing that I wanted to do, and I was discussing this and kind of updating the Patreon crowd, which I'll get to here in a second. during the break of a number of months was that I wanted to come back and have Smarter Home Life be a little bit different, maybe a little bit more condensed, a little bit faster paced perhaps. But I don't subscribe to just making content that's a minute and a half long just because, well, I committed to making a new video every single day of the week. So Fridays, quick tips. It's a 5-minute or less-ish video that's just sharing something helpful, something interesting, and I think people seem to be latching onto it, especially the last one got a bunch of likes and is doing pretty well. So I hope people catch on and kind of start to take a look at that. The move, I was talking about that everything was like on track. I'm moving to the Pacific Northwest this summer. It's delayed, it's not canceled. And I gotta leave that there as well because those plans are kind of a little bit on hold and trying to piece some things together to make that work. I really want to get out of the Arizona summer. We're moving on up temperature wise now. So anyways, I'm hoping to get that done. So again, as I promised, before I move, I'm gonna do my best. If I can't actually produce and release videos on it, I'm gonna at least record the videos of a few more things about behind the scenes and everything else about how things work here in this tiny little smart home. Let's move on to Patreon real quick. I know some of you will be like, oh dear, it's the Patreon speech again. All I want to say is this. I wouldn't still be able to do this without all the different pieces fitting together. And that means all the wonderful people who have been contributing financially, literally financially, on a monthly basis through Patreon since nearly the beginning. I couldn't have done it without you guys. You know who you are. You've been very loyal. And some people I get, they had to kind of cancel and move on when the show went on hiatus. And I actually put Patreon on hiatus as well. I've redone the levels. There's one level now. It's very simple to understand. And instead of just contributing monthly, you would be contributing based on how much content is actually coming out. So it's a little bit, it just makes more sense for how the show may go up and down a little bit throughout the upcoming months. But my goal is to continue making great quality content for you guys. That's what the goal of Smarter Home Life is. I've refined it, I've dialed it down, and it's back. If you were contributing on Patreon and you left, I would love to have you back. If you've never contributed, if you've never been part of the family of patrons of Smarter Home Life, I would invite you to try it out. Head over to patreon.com/smarterhomelife. It's all explained there. You get some updates, you get some inside scoop kind of things, and some sneak previews and so forth. You get a little bit of that every single month, and I usually put out an update just for the patrons. So you get a little bit more than the public does, and you're supporting great content. So there you go. I would love to have you back, or I would love to have you as a brand new patron. Check it out. It's an easy way, it's a great way, and you'll feel great about supporting great content. God, this now sounds like a pledge drive. So this question, I really liked, really enjoyed answering this question, and I'll get to kind of the whys of that a little bit here as we get through it. This is from Pete. He says, "Hi Joe." Hi Pete. We recently moved into a new home that used to be a model home. The home came with 5 speakers built into the ceiling in various rooms, 2 in the living room, 1 in the front dining room, 1 in the upstairs hallway. I think he's missing one, but I won't count you off points for that. We also have a bunch of Google Home devices, and I'll kind of gloss over the locations and so forth. It's a lot of Google stuff. That's great. I love the Google Home devices. More on that in a little bit. All of the speakers in the ceilings tie back to a central location in the basement beside the electrical panel, and what he would like to do is somehow integrate. He wants to utilize these speakers. Now, of course, the challenge is there's no amp. The home builder took it with them, you know, when it was no longer going to be a model home. So that's gone. But he's got speaker wiring that runs down. They're all separately wired. Apparently, it's pretty good quality speaker wire. But how do you get this done, especially in the Google world? Now, the initial idea I came up with, which was really, I emailed it to him because I just said, well, here's an idea. It's crazy, but you know, this is probably idea A, and we'll just probably throw it out the window and we'll go with idea B. There have been people who have done this, literally taken their Amazon Echo Dot devices, or now, of course, with the Google Home Mini, that both of those devices basically lay flat. The speaker fires upward, but if you, I guess, upward, if you turn it over and if you were to insert it basically lay it onto a speaker grill, and this is your attic or crawl space and this is the room below, basically you're going to have a speaker that fires right through the speaker grill into the room. You're not necessarily going to have the best audio quality unless perhaps you put a Google Max up there, or a Google Home Max, and your speaker grill may not support the weight of that behemoth. But that could be a solution, but there's all kinds of weird things, and then you would have to get rid of those speakers, so I kind of threw that out the window. But I emailed it to him anyway saying, well, here's one idea, but we'll just get rid of this for now. My second idea, which many of you will probably latch on to, is the one that he is experimenting with apparently right now. And that is using Google or Chromecast audio devices. Chromecast audio devices are similar to regular Chromecast devices, except they're audio only. And they allow you to get wonderful sound and some interactivity out of existing speaker systems. So what he would need to do, of course, is group these existing speakers, put an amp on them. You know, if you've got two, I think there's two in the living room, so he could group those together, and if the other ones are all separate, you could wind up with 3 or 4 amps, but you'll gain the functionality of those speakers. Now, amps are going to be whatever price for whatever quality amplifier that you need, and as long as it has a line in, you then basically plug the line in cable from the Chromecast audio to your amp. You set a standard volume of on the amp that will be a reasonable volume, so you can kind of adjust it through the app, through the Chromecast audio device. And then this is how you tie all this together. You then go in to the Google Home app and you can create audio groups. So this helps with, of course, whole house audio, but of course if you want to group these things together, if you want the living room, the existing 2 speakers plus the large Google Home, I'm assuming when he said large Google Home, I assume he meant the Google Home Max, then basically when you tell Google play Pandora, play, you know, whatever source of media on this audio group, it'll bring all those together and play it simultaneously across your Google Home devices and your existing speakers on Chromecast audio. And it's a great way to utilize existing resources. That's what I suggested. He loved that idea. He said he had an amp lying around somewhere that he was going to try it with. He just had to go get a Chromecast audio. So I asked him, I said, please let me know how this goes. It would be great. Send photos. We'll do a follow-up. It'll be fantastic. And so probably we'll hopefully hear back from Pete maybe in June sometime and see how this process goes. So that's definitely a great solution. You're going to have to buy some amps, but at least all the wiring was done for him. He also mentioned that there was already Wi-Fi, a good Wi-Fi signal, and his kind of internet connectivity were kind of down in the basement anyways. So I think all in all, a good solution for him. You're going to ask me now, of course, well, what if I'm not in the Google world? What if I'm in the Amazon world? And if you're in the Apple world, the Airport Express with the little audio jack is no longer being made, so you're out of luck. But in the Amazon world, you could get an Amazon Echo Dot. Many people use it for the same purpose. You plug a line in, or line out cable from the Amazon Echo Dot into your favorite speaker system, and boom, you have interactive music and so forth from your favorite platform. But there's more technology than you really need built into an Amazon Echo Dot, and the base price of the Echo Dot is much more expensive than a Chromecast device or Chromecast audio. So if you're in the Amazon world, you can certainly get this done. But if you're in the Google world, or if you're not in a world, I guess, and you're looking for one to be in, I would think that the Google world is going to be a little bit better. So I also enjoyed answering this question because I finally got into the whole house music, whole house audio thing at the end of last year, at the end of 2017. Google had introduced, of course, as I just showed off, this guy, which is now in the titles of the show, as you know, the Google Home Mini. I have 2 of these now. I've got one, this one is in the bedroom on my dresser. The other one, which I showed off in the previous video, or the Ecobee video, now sits in my bathroom. And then I've got a regular Google Home right over there in the kitchen. And whole house music, like, I don't know what I did without it. It's fantastic. And what I did also, that I'll get to in an additional episode about all that stuff, probably over the summer sometime, is I added a bunch of voice automations. I figured, hey, they're voice devices anyways. Let me do voice control for my whole house music. And I do whole house music a little bit different than Google would have me do it kind of natively, because usually I tend to not use a lot of music services. I do my own playlists, and I do, you know, just general music listening from different websites that are more specific to what I like, and it comes off the Mac. So I've got an app on there, and I've got it controlled through the home automation system, and it's pretty fantastic. So anyways, I'll go into more of that over the summer, and like I said, I don't know what I did without whole house audio, and it's pretty fantastic. So make your home just a little bit smarter every single day. I do it like every other day. I just make a change, an adjustment. It just takes a little while. And if you're just getting to the smart home, well, I've got something special coming out in June, and I think you're gonna really enjoy it. So look for that. Look for coverage of Apple's WWDC event next week on Monday. That's when that event, that whole conference starts, and I'll have keynote coverage and other stuff coming up next week. Send in your questions, smarterhomehelp.com. Schedule your consulting sessions. They're a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing them, and the viewers really enjoy them as well, and they get a lot out of them. That's it. I'm Joe DeGanzik for Smarter Home Life, and I'll see you next time.